Welcome to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yance, and I have another interview for you at Silly.Reader on Instagram, or also known as Arjun Book Reviewer. He's a book blogger, and we had a fascinating conversation. I must warn you that there is some cursing on this. I didn't want to censor it because I want to give you exactly what it is. I don't curse, but he does curse a little bit. So just be warned. Also, some of the audio is a little distorted because he was using headphones. Unfortunately, there was not much I could do to fix that. So I hope you enjoy. If not, then skip this episode. Thank you for listening and enjoy. Okay, so I am here with Arjun, the book reviewer from Instagram. And how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So I've been following your Instagram for a while now. What led you to start an Instagram blog post or
Okay, I started reading books when I was in my fourth year of engineering, uh, in my graduation. So at that time, I read a book and it changed my perspective of how I saw life. And in March 2020, when the whole whole world was in a lockdown state, uh, I didn't had much to do while I was working in my job, and then I thought, why not share the things that I've learned from the books with people? I already had a few friends and family members on Instagram, and I thought that it would be a great starting point to share the things that I've learned from books. And I started sharing what I learned, uh, what books I read, and the thing the thing got started, and people started getting along. They started following me, and from 20 March 2020 till March 2022 we have grown, and I've accumulated an audience of almost 50k followers.
interesting? So you mentioned your job. What was what is your job? I'm curious.
Uh, it was my job. I used to work for a petroleum engineering company. It used to extract oil from. It used to extract crude oil from the ground. It's
Oh,
known
wow.
as it's known as Clean Energy, and it's the topmost private company in India for
Wow.
extraction of petroleum.
Wow, fascinating. So you were saying that so you guys have seen a lot of growth. You've seen a lot of growth with your Instagram page.
Yeah.
That's cool. Um, so let's backtrack a little bit here. Where did your love of reading start? Is there like a favorite book? Is there something specific?
Uh, the starting point was that when I was in my third year of engineering, I I lived with five people, along with five people, and some of them were voracious readers, and they used to talk very intellectually, and I used to get fascinated by them. That how are they speaking and talking so intellectually, and I started imitating them. You see, you start to copy others, and then start following that what they are doing. So I started following what my roommates or flatmates, you can call them. uh, I used to ask them that how do you know a lot of things, and they used to tell me that we read a lot of books. And then they told me that if you want to know things, you should also start reading books. The starting point was my roommates or flatmates. And when I was in my fourth year of engineering, uh, what happened was I was in a very bad state, very bad phase of my life. And a book known as Attitude is Everything by Jeff Keller, I read it at that time, and it changed.
Can you repeat that book name one more time? What was the book's name?
Attitude is Everything by Jeff Keller.
Article by Jeff
By Jeff
Jeff
Keller. Keller.
Keller. Okay. Okay.
Okay. It changed how I see the world, my attitude, my mindset. It changed everything. And after that, I became a voracious reader. After that point, after that incident.
So interesting. So a lot of this started from with your flatmates that you would
Yeah.
or roommates, where you kind of just saw what they were doing and you kind of copied what they were doing, and they just said, and I agree with that point, that like if you really want to know something and you want to learn different perspectives, as
Yes.
on from 1 Minute Book Reviews would say, you would the best way to do that is by reading, because you're delving into someone else's mind. And
Absolutely.
so that's interesting, that like from being around the environment, that changed your perspective on things, so you saw what it is, which is something that I've always believed, that if you're in a certain environment, it will push you to do something outside of what you may not have done. So as you said, you were in your, I believe, third year at engineering school, and
Yes.
that came from there. Yeah. So and you said Jeff Keller, Attitude is Everything. Yes, I've read that book, and that's a great yeah. So interesting. So that like pushed you out there. Um, do you have like since you've been reading for a long time, do you have a top 5 favorite books?
It's the toughest question you can ask a book reader. I have like
Yeah.
top 20. I can name top 20 books. My bookshelf is right here. I can name top 20 books. So, but I'll make it easy for you.
Okay.
I'll recommend, I'll mention the top 5 books, and it might change. So, one will be The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. One will be The Millionaire Fast Lane by M.J. DeMarco. One will be The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. One will be The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and one will be The Go Giver by Bob Burg and John David Mann. So it keeps
Hmm.
on changing, but usually these are in my top 10, top 5, top 10.
Now you mentioned, now the first book you mentioned, uh actually no, I want to start with The Subtle Art of Not, well, I try to keep this PG, but I mean that's the name of the book. giving giving an F. um I found that book to be very enlightening, to to different perspective. What did you learn? What did you like about The Subtle Art of Not Giving him
A
an
lot
F?
of things. The first one is that uh, there are there are not a lot of things that matter to us, that we actually give importance to. These are the small little things that we give importance to, but they don't actually matter. That was one thing. The second one was living by the values that you have. The third one was, uh, what are you willing to suffer for in your life. When we talk about passion, live your passion, go follow your passion, it's absolutely bullshit. The main question that you should ask yourself is, what things are you willing to suffer for? Because if you are willing to suffer for something, there are chances that you will be persistent and resilient about it, because you made sure that it was consciously decided by you that you are willing to suffer for it. uh, the and one more thing is that it talks about that when you live your values, uh, which which comes to you, something that is not external to you, it will bring a lot of peace to you. Let's suppose that I live by a value that I should be honest, and not by what Justin thinks about me. What Justin thinks about me is never under my control. And if I keep on, and if I keep living by that value, that what Justin or what other people will think of me, I'll end up being miserable, because what you think of me or what the world thinks of me is never under my control, and it never will be under my control. So these were some of the learnings that I got from that book. I keep It's one of my book that I have reread the most. I keep going back to it again and again when I'm stuck in my life. it is always my go-to-go book.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, because you mentioned that, like, if you are always thinking about what somebody else is thinking, you will cease to have an opinion. You're basically just a puppet. You're just following whatever it is. And and then the first thing you said, you know, not not allowing not allowing the thoughts to just come in and run your life. Just what is actually important, as opposed
Yes,
to
sir.
what you think is important. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, that's one of my favorite books. You mentioned another book that I haven't read yet, but I think I bought it. The Millionaire Fast Lane. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so it's one of the most unconventional business books you will ever read. I bet it will be one of the most unconventional business books you will ever read in your life. It talks about how you can build a sustainable business
Mm,
that nobody can beat. It talks about something known as sense model. I'll brief it to you. Sense stands for control, entry, need, time, and scalability. And uh, uh, it mentions that if a business has all these things very well planned, control means you have absolute control over whatever is running in that business. The barrier to entry is very high. Let's suppose nobody can copy or enter into that market where you are operating. The third is control, entry, need. So the third one will be the need, the actual need. Is there an actual need of what you are selling, whatever product or whatever service you are selling? uh, the fourth one is time bound. Time bound means that whatever you are doing, can it be automated, or can it be set to an autopilot mode, rather than you being there, because you never want to be in a business that is time bound, or you are bound to that time for that business. And the fifth one is scalability. Scalability means that how easily the business, the product, the service that you are selling can be scaled or multiplied. So it talks about that if a business, if you can make a business which operates on a sense model, you are bound to make $1 million easily, very easily. So if you are a person who reads that book and operates the principles mentioned, I'm damn sure that you will never die poor.
interesting. So is it more in the realm of like the psychology of money? Like that was the last post you just put up. Is it more in that realm of a book, or is it more of a book like I don't know, like The Intelligent Investor?
Okay, I'll introduce the concept. It talks about three things: the side lane, the slow lane, and the fast lane. It talks about the three roads.
Hmm.
The slow lane, will be the lane uh, for the people who live paycheck to paycheck.
Hmm. Yeah.
That the money they get, they are instantly gratified. They'll go and spend their money. They won't wait for the long term returns on that money, right? So what will happen is that they will live paycheck to paycheck, and if they lose their job, they will find it very difficult to live or survive. The second one is the second one is the side lane, and it so happens that uh, people advise you to invest your money in 401, in index fund, and it will keep growing till you are 60, and then you can enjoy your life after 60, right?
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, so it sounds like this book really, put a lot of things into perspective for you in to making a business, and that it's really it really gave you that I would say foundation on how
Yes.
on how to do it. Is that something that you see yourself as an entrepreneur?
Yeah,
Excellent. Excellent. One thing I noticed is you seem to have, do you like to write your own summaries for your books when you read them?
I like to uh, not summaries. I like to review it. I like to mention what things I like and not summarize it like this. It was containing all this things. I don't do that way. I only review the book and mention the points, the actionable points which I think I can apply in my life. Because I feel that if you read 100% of the book, there are chances that you might not be able to apply all those things, all the 100% of those things in your life.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, yeah. So let me ask you, so how long do you like to read? Like naturally, like for me, I was on a plane here coming from Florida to Charlotte, North Carolina. So it was, I like to read. Like I was reading Stillness, Ryan Holiday's book. Stillness is the Key is the correct
Yeah.
title. And it actually helped me because there was a lot of turbulence on the plane. And I was just like thinking, I was like, okay, that's good. And one of the things that really jumped at me is it was talking about somebody who says you can go into a room and just for a minute, let your mind wander and just take account of exactly what is going through your head. So how long do you like to read?
It usually depends. I'll mostly read for one or 1.5 hour every day.
Wow, 1.5 hours. That's amazing. Now, since you read a lot, do you like to do any techniques like speed reading? Are you somebody that uses that?
No, actually, I know people who do speed reading, but I
Hmm.
don't. I like to read slow, so I don't follow any type of technique while reading books.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. That's amazing though. You do read 1.5 hours every day. That's great. Um, what would you get? This is something I ask everybody about. What advice would you give to people that are wanting to read but don't know quite how to create the habit? And I'm kind of jumping on a little bit like the Atomic Habits, which I'm sure you've read that book. That's a fascinating book on like just being 1% better every day. So yeah, elaborate a little on that.
Okay, the first reason is asking yourself why you want to read books. The why should be clear. My mentor, who is a social entrepreneur, his name goes by Amrut Deshmukh, and you can ask him to come. You can ask him to come to your podcast also. And the thing is, he always mentions that reading is not important, learning is. And you can
Mm.
learn from books, podcasts. Let's suppose someone is listening to our podcast, he can learn a lot of things from this as well. You can learn from books, podcasts, you can learn from YouTube videos, you can learn from interviews, you can learn by talking to people, you can learn by working with people. So my mentor always mentions that reading is absolutely not important, learning is, because if you are not learning you are not growing. So he mentioned that if someone wants to start reading books, he should identify first the clear reason, the why behind why I am reading books, why I want to read books. It is just because it sounds
Yeah.
very cool that people are reading books and I should also read books. If the metric is that people are reading books and I want to, then
But
there
but
are
you're
chances
saying
that
like books are like the facilitation for learning. It's the learning that's the key, the key
absolutely.
thing. But books is just another way to learn. And I like that. That's a great way to look at it. Because you could learn from film. You can learn, I mean, you can teach yourself to meditate just by watching a film, just by paying attention to things. I mean, if you can just calm your mind. And I like what you're saying is it's not necessarily the the format, whether it's books or film or music or reading or a podcast or YouTube. it's the learning is the key. And I think that gets lost in perspective a lot is the learning. And I like what you just said about that. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to really, clarify that point because I thought that was a great point you just made.
Yeah, so my mentor always mentioned that, let's suppose you read the book Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson, or you listen to Steve Jobs speaking somewhere in his interview, or somewhere where he is giving a speech. He won't be talking different things in the book or in the speech. He would be talking one and the same thing. So if your mindset, if your perspective is to learn, you will learn the same thing from either the book or either the speech interview where Steve Jobs is there. So he always emphasizes on the point, the center point is always that reading is not important, learning is. Because if you are not learning, you are not growing. And this is a thing that I want to mention, that if you want, you can ask him to come to your podcast as well. If you want, I'll share his
Yeah,
Instagram profile with you also. And he is a social entrepreneur. He has over 1.7 million people on his app, which listens to him very frequently, who listens to him frequently.
absolutely. I would love to have him on my podcast. You mentioned Steve Jobs. What was the book that you said about Steve Jobs?
Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs biography
Oh,
by
the
Walter
one
Isaacson.
by Walter Isaac, the
Yes,
one, the big book.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that one.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great book. I haven't finished it yet, actually. Because when the pandemic happened, I moved from New York to Charlotte, and I left that book, and I'm kind of like, do I buy it again? Like I already have it. It's like it's sitting on a bookshelf. Um, that's great. You mentioned mentors. Talk a little bit more about that, the importance of mentors. That's something I haven't heard from the people that I've interviewed. They haven't really talked about the importance of mentoring, but I've been reading a lot of books that have talked about that. Can you talk a little bit about mentoring and how
Uh,
that has helped you?
See, it usually happens that mentors are people who have walked the path that you want to walk through, right? Let's suppose I want to grow my YouTube channel, so I'll ask someone to mentor me who has already grown a YouTube channel. Let's
Yeah.
suppose someone has read a lot of books and I want to start reading, so my mentor would always be someone who has read a lot of books. So firstly, you have to identify that people who you want to be, if they are the one who have already got there. So
Mm,
here the credibility things becomes very important, to identify if the person you are looking up to as a mentor is credible or not. And the thing is that, let's suppose I want to get mentored by someone who has a YouTube channel with a lot of following. Why the fuck will he give me his time? His time is very precious. So the best way to get mentorship is from books, because books come at a very cheap price and it stays with you for a lifetime. The best way is to get and read the books from those people who you admire or who you look up to, and if possible, and I don't know how you can approach them, but if possible, uh, make people mentor only and only when they have achieved what you desire to achieve in the long term.
mm, interesting. Interesting. That's fascinating. Um, so yes, your Instagram has grown along quite far. Where do you see that going in the future?
uh, See, I haven't set any goals yet, because I believe in, not in goals but in systems. uh, from the last 2 years, what I've done, I'll keep doing that and improve little by little. I'm a big believer in systems, not in goals. So I haven't set any goals that I'll reach there, I'll get there at this timeline. I'll keep following what I have been doing for the past 2 years, and uh, it has given me immense results, which I haven't thought of it. If I ask myself that, do you see where you are today when you were 2 years back? I wouldn't be expecting that where I am today I would be there. So I'll keep doing what I am doing. I'll follow the system I have implemented for myself for the past few years. No goals as such, but uh, I'll try to make sure that I provide value to my audience. And if the people who are following me get a lot of value from what I am doing, then the results take care of itself, take care for itself.
So one step at a time.
Yes, one step at a time. The system is already there. I follow the system. I have been following the system for the past years. So the system is there. I'll keep tinkering and experimenting with stuff, uh, and always focus on how can I provide more value to my audience.
Hmm. Can you talk a little bit about your system, or is it personal?
Okay, so the system is that I follow a certain to do list that I have to follow, that on this day this post will go, this type of post will go. I make sure that my content calendar is ready for the next 7 to 14 days in advance, and I schedule my post. I always keep in mind what the audience is liking or not, because at the back end i I analyze the data that we get from Instagram. So I'll always keep that in mind, that whatever my audience is liking, I'll always make sure that I provide for it. So these are the things that I follow in my system, keeping a check on the content calendar, making sure that everything is going fine, keeping a track on the analytics, and uh, figuring out what the audience is liking, what is getting more shared. These are all the things that are present in my system.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, I see this. You have the Silly.Reader. Where is that coming from? Like, I want to see. I see my work as play in some ways. Is that kind of what you're alluding to with
Uh,
Silly.Reader?
no, 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 the thing is that it comes from a point that uh, failure is not the opposite of success. Fail, Failure is a part of success, right? And intelligence is not the opposite of being silly. If you
Hmm.
are if you are willing to be silly, you cannot be intelligent or you cannot be wise. And the thing with silly, being dumb, being stupid, or being an amateur is that you have always you always have something to learn. You have always have something to gain, something to learn from the world. There is nothing to lose and everything to gain. And if you have a mindset of an amateur, of a silly person, then you can learn from anything and anyone. That was the sole reason that I kept. It was Reader Arjun. The username was Reader Arjun before, but when I got this perspective that when you have a silly mindset of an amateur, then you have everything to learn. I changed it, and I've been following this from a long time now.
So you're taking a lot from like Austin Kleon and show
Yeah,
your
yeah.
work.
So yeah. It
Because
is
he
real.
talks about that being in it. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
My book's over there, so I can't get up. But I was just browsing your
It's
Instagram, and I
it's
saw
also
that.
it's also one of my favorite book, and
Really is a great book. Those all three of those books,
yeah.
show your work, steal like an artist. They're short books, but they're reminders of what you can do. You're not in this. We live in the digital age, so why not show it? You know, and like you said, if you keep yourself as an amateur, you're always thinking like an amateur, and you're not sitting on this horse like, well, this is all I can do. You keeping the amateur, it's that entrepreneurial spirit of I can always do better. and I'm glad you mentioned that, you know, show your work, you know, and Austin Kleon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a lot of my mindset has changed because of Austin Kleon, because when you get a lot of following, you have a lot of trollers as well who troll you, who try to bring you down. So Austin Kleon books has helped me a lot in my content creation and social media journey.
Now I got to ask you this, because I notice you have a lot of books. Do you prefer to read with the actual book, or do you like a Kindle, or is it both? Do you have one?
I recently bought a Kindle, and it was because of the sole reason that my bookshelf and my whole room is filled with books. So I
Same
don't have a
here.
lot. So I
Same
don't
here.
have. So I don't have a lot of space, and I recently bought it. It I bought it in the last week only. So uh, now I prefer both the books, and I don't have any problem with reading books on Kindle, but always I'll prefer
Yeah.
physical copy or over in Kindle. But due to space constraint, now I'm preferring Kindle.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like it's like being in New York, you're in a small apartment. It's like I can't. You could just fill up the whole house with just books and just feel like, where can I, you know, go? So the Kindle gives you the idea that you can have the information of all the books.
Yeah.
You know,
Kindle actually provides you the mobility to carry 1,000 books with you wherever you go. So
yeah,
it's a great thing.
it really is. So you have with YouTube, do you prefer YouTube over Instagram, or do you like both? How do you see it? How do you see?
I prefer YouTube over Instagram. Why? Because uh,
Mm,
I want to know things in deep, and Instagram is a quick consumption platform. It hasn't been made for, or it hasn't been curated for the consumption of long format. So I always prefer going on YouTube and learning things. All my learning things have either happened on Medium, YouTube, or Skillshare. These are the platforms I prefer to learn things. So Instagram, I usually use Instagram to learn about books and content creators who are creating content around books. Other than that, I don't have anything to do with Instagram. It's just dopamine hits that you get from Instagram.
yeah, yeah. I'm like you. I follow other people on Instagram, but I love that Instagram. You can connect with other readers on books, and like you know, I just read that a couple of weeks ago. Do It Today by Darius
Yeah, yeah,
Uru.
yeah.
I mean, that's a great, like, I love reading. See, when you read books like that, if you can apply it in your life, it will, I feel it inspires you to work even harder. I mean, you can read it passively, but if you read it and then start to apply it each time, you know, I don't necessarily know if you need to do a summary or not. I think it's more about the application of what you read, and
Absolutely.
however you go about that is up to you.
Completely agree with that. And his books are very to the point, no bullshit at all, very short books. I've read his three books. One is Think Straight, the second one is Do It Today, and the third one is named What It Takes to Be Free. It All three books are great, to the point. He doesn't speak any crap. He's to the point, very straightforward and to the point. I love his books.
Now I see you have a lot of you have Robert Greene on here. Do you like have you read the 48 Laws of Power?
Yeah, I have read some laws, but I think it's very, what I can say, it seems very unethical.
Yeah.
The ethics in you don't want to manipulate people. So
Yeah.
I've read,
It's an interesting book because I mean I like how Robert Greene uses examples from history. And then he'll find somebody like maybe a little bit more modern, but eh, yeah, I mean, yeah, you couldn't use all of them. It's more of an idea of how people go about manipulation. He talks about the false idol and all these different things. Would you say, I haven't read The Laws of Human Nature? I have it. I just haven't gotten into it. Would you find that to be a more applicable book, or is it in the same realm as 48 Laws of Power?
No, it's different. I haven't read it full. It's a very long book. I read it in parts, but it's a great book. Compared to
Yeah.
48 Laws of Power, it actually makes you aware of what moves a person, what motivates a person from the inside, what's the inherent dark side of human nature. It
Mm,
actually it it actually opens up all the things you can think of. So uh, it's very informative book, and it tells you about all the blind spots that we have. We often skip it out, but when you read that book, you'll start to see things, and a pattern in your mind keeps operating, that this is how things happen, this is how things happen.
mm. Interesting. Interesting. Um, you got to also Make Your Bed. I think that's one of the best books, and it's very short, but it's very to the point, and it really inspired me on how to. It's not just the make your bed part, but like one of my favorite parts, and I've said this in other podcasts, is that when he talks about how they had to go to the circus and they kept failing, but they kept doing the extra work, and then eventually it paid off. They were able to make huge gains, and I think people need a reminder of that. Like if you keep working hard, maybe you're not seeing but it's the delayed gratification of moving forward. Maybe you're here now, but if you just keep chipping away at it and keep doing the work, it's going to it'll you'll see the improvement. You may not, it may not be showing financially or beneficially right now, but the more you work, I'm always about working smart. If you can, the smarter you work and the harder you work, those two combined, I think, are a recipe for success. And I think that book really lends itself to that, because it showed, they kept failing. They were like, they kept going to the circus, kept falling back. And then eventually they just ran the whole thing in like 3 minutes. Is that do you enjoy that book, or?
uh,
Uh,
actually actually it's one of my books that I got bored out of it, because first
really?
I yeah, because the thing is that I found the lessons very repetitive, and it happened because I've read a lot of self-help books, and the lessons are very common. And the thing is that I didn't like the storytelling as well. I
Hmm.
didn't enjoy the storytelling of that book. So uh, if you had skipped that book, it wouldn't happen that you had a lot you would miss out on a lot of things. You would eventually know about the lessons in some or the other personal development books. So I didn't think that it offered something new. It was
Yeah.
something that we already know, but we often neglect it in our life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, 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 I agree. I mean, yeah, when you read a lot of self-help books, yeah, you find a lot of, common ground where it's like, okay, I'm hearing this again. It's like just gotta keep like going on and on here, just like looking at it, like, okay, you're like, can we get to the part where like, because each one has something new to bring, but then there's some where it's just like it's treading old ground, and I feel exactly how you feel. Um, So you're an entrepreneur. So I want to know, what is your beginning of the day routine?
uh, I usually wake up at 7:38, and the first thing I actually do is make my bed.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you said that right in here.
Yeah, but I used to do it before reading that book. I used to do that, and then I fresh up. Then I have my breakfast, and I start reading books. So the first thing I do is to read books, and then around 10 to 11 I 10:30 I start uh, working on my schedule, whatever is my plan, whatever the thing is planned in my calendar. So it goes around and till 5:30 I am free, and then usually I read, or I listen to something, or I watch something on YouTube.
Mm.
So usually my day starts 7, and then from 10:30 I start working.
You're not a part of the 5 a.m. club?
No, no, no. No, I used to be when I was in my college, but right now I don't feel the need for it. And it
No.
works, actually, it works. I lost when I was the part of the 5 a.m. club while I was in my college. I lost 6 kgs in 40
Mm.
days, and it was quite an achievement for me because that time I felt that I was overweight and I really wanted
Yeah.
to lose my weight. So it actually works.
I think the importance of like the 5 a.m. club is more like not necessarily when you wake up. It's what you do when you wake up and how you
Absolutely,
use it. Whether you do
absolutely.
that. I mean, you don't want to be part of the 5 p.m. club. I think that would be a little too much. I'm in the 5 p.m. club. Half the day's gone. So yeah. So that's cool. Do you do any kind of meditation when you
No,
wake up?
no, no, no. I don't meditate actually.
Okay.
So I don't do any type of meditation.
Okay. Do you have a religious practice that you would do in its
I,
place or
actually, what I do is the first thing when I sit for reading is I read the Serenity Prayer.
hmm,
So and the Daily Laws by Robert Greene, and the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday is my
yeah.
is my
I've
go-to
stood
book is my go-to-go book. And there is one more book by I don't remember the name of the author. It's 365 days of self-discipline. These are my three daily books that I read when I sit to read books. So these are my three books, and I read the Serenity Prayer.
hmm,
If you call it religious, it's my religious practice that I do every day,
yeah. Yeah.
and with
In some
journaling.
ways and what we're saying is like we're talking about like meditation can come from anywhere. You can
Yeah,
meditate through,
absolutely.
so you're kind of meditating through the book, which I don't think people realize. I think it's all about enlightening yourself to a different perspective. And that, in some ways, that's what you're doing with just meditation. We're just sitting there listening. You're focusing on something. I think it's directing focus to something for a certain period of time, and so it could come from books or anything. So I think that's a really good point to continue to make, is that it's meditating can come from anywhere. It's more the focus. And I like what you said, books, that's your meditating. That's your form, and that's your religious practice, and I like that. Do you have a nighttime routine?
I don't actually have a nighttime routine other than journaling. I usually
Hmm.
journal at night. So I have a Notion template which I follow, that I have certain things. What are the three things that I'm grateful for today? What is that one thing that happened that made me happy? And there are certain prompts that I follow, and I do that every day before closing my laptop, because it's on Notion. So I have to fill it through my laptop, and then when I go to
Yeah.
sleep, I before when I'm on my bed, my Kindle, right now my Kindle is with me, so I usually skim through books or reread certain things or certain books that I've already read in the past. And so these are the things that fall into my what you say, nighttime routine.
Yeah.
I journal and I read before going to bed.
Interesting. That's great. Thing. You also mentioned Marcus Aurelius. I wanted to just add a follow-up question. Yeah, I started doing that. The Stoic from Ryan Holiday. That's it's interesting because you can apply a lot of what was going on then to now, because it's still, maybe technology has changed, the structure, the way houses look and everything, but the struggles are similar even back in that day. And I think that's what I think he brings a lot of perspective to, is that, It's very similar. And I've been reading something about, they were talking about journaling, and yeah, that's something I need to start doing. Do you journal? Do you like to use your laptop when you journal?
I actually have a Notion template that I've designed for myself.
An ocean template?
Notion,
Is
Notion,
a
Notion,
motion template?
Motion. No,
Okay.
no, no, no. Notion, Notion. I'll tap it down.
Okay. Yeah. Type it in the things. I think I'm. Let me look here at the chat here. Let's see. Yes, I'm curious about that. Notion template. Okay. Is that like specifically for journaling?
Yeah, I have designed it for myself so that I can journal certain things every day. Uh, it contains the things that I'm grateful for. One thing that I could have improved in the day. One great thing that happened during the day with me. What are the lessons that I've learned all through the day? What are the things that I've accomplished in the day? So these are certain prompts that I follow.
Interesting. Interesting. That's cool. That's definitely something I want to look into. Okay. Well, we're about to wrap up here, but I wanted to, just ask some fun questions now. Um, I'm a big film guy, so what do you like films? I mean, I noticed you have the Joker here on your Instagram and stuff. So I mean, like, what are some of your favorite films, or what have you seen lately?
So my favorite movies are Bollywood, and I'm not sure
Hmm.
if you heard about it or not. It's called Three Idiots by. Do you know Amir Khan?
3DX, but okay. I know
Three
a little
Idiots.
bit. I know a little bit about Bollywood. I mean, I follow, I try to follow the box office. I try to keep well read everywhere. You know, keep myself as world renowned as I can and know what's going on there. As I'm always fascinated with Bollywood, because I see a lot of I see almost Bollywood almost where we were in the 80s with action movies. A lot of the action movies are really popular in Bollywood right now. That seems to be um, interesting. Interesting. Do you watch American films as well, or is it strictly Bollywood? Like,
No, no, no. I used to. Right now, I don't watch either Bollywood or either Hollywood because actually I don't have a lot of time because I have a lot of things to do. Like I have to run my YouTube channel also. I run Instagram and I work also. So it's a bit hectic. So I don't watch right now anything other than if there is a series or thing. If I have time. So one of my I'll mention few of my movies that I like from Hollywood. One is Shutter Island by Leonardo DiCaprio. I hope you have
hmm,
watched.
yeah, that's a great film.
Shutter Island is one. The Pursuit of Happiness is a great movie.
Which one was what?
The Pursuit of Happiness by the one which has Will Smith in it. The Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, The Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah, that's a good film too.
Yeah, and Dumb and Dumber is also a great movie that I watched. Uh,
That's
and
always good
and
for a laugh.
I don't remember the name of the movie that where the 12 jury members sit and discuss about a case. What's that? 12, 12
12
Half
Angry
Men.
Men.
Yeah.
That's a
That's a great movie as well.
that's a classic film.
Yeah, so these are some of the movies I can recall as of now.
Cool.
I've watched quite a few movies. Not a lot, not a big Hollywood fan, but I have watched some of the movies.
Interesting. Interesting.
I usually watch web series uh, foreign web series. So like Game of Thrones is one of my
Hmm.
favorites. Uh, have you watched Dexter?
Cool. So Game of Thrones. All right, were you satisfied with
No,
Game of
no.
Thrones? No
Ending,
one
no.
was. Nobody was. It was very sad watching that. It's like, really? We waited 2 years for this to come back, and this is what you give
So,
us.
what are your favorite movies? You can mention.
um,
If I get time, I'll watch it.
for me, I just saw last week. I saw the Batman, and that was a fascinating film. I've never seen Batman like really like. Usually they just reflect on like fighting and his pain, and here they reflected more on his pain, but he's a detective, and they show him working with like Gordon to Commissioner Gordon to fix things. And I thought that was interesting. It's a different take on Batman that we haven't seen before. I really love the Marvel movies. I think, the fact that they've been able to put the MCU, put all like do 19 films and make them all like flow is, whoops, there we go, is amazing. I saw the film Nightmare Alley back in January, and I thought that was a fantastic film. What else? Now you put me on the spot here. So I love, I love a lot of films here. Let me go through my thing. See, that's what I've kind of got my like Kindle of movies now. I loved Game of Thrones. I thought Game of Thrones really was unique at the time because they spent a lot of time building to things. And as they got away from the books, that went away and it became more about, it's just an action show. And I was like, what more? Game of Thrones to me is more about the anticipation of what's going to happen. I saw last night in Soho a film that I thought was really interesting, very weird. It's a Scandinavian film. I think it's Iceland. Lamb was really interesting. I don't know what it was. I loved Dune. Dune was, I thought, one of the best things that came out of Hollywood. Was it just really, it showed a lot of respect to the source material, and it had great acting, and the way he filmed it just made it look. Some people will say that it's a little long in the tooth, but I thought that was just a fascinating, fascinating. To me, that was my favorite film of 2021. I just thought that just really just, I was like, wow, I was like blown away watching it in the IMAX and seeing, 70 millimeters, and just, it was just like, wow, this is amazing. So that's some of my favorite films. But yeah, this has been fun. I thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. I've seen the podcast you have asked on and Roy and some of the people of Bookstagram. Colin, I think you also asked Colin, right? From
What?
Readers.
I'm sorry.
Colin from Readers Recap, I think.
I've had sorry, it's getting it's getting cut off here. Um, say it again.
Uh, you have got Roy. You have got on.
I've got two. Yeah, I've had on. Yes, I've had on my podcast. It's great.
You have
It's
got
great.
Roy.
And then I had I had the Reader Lounge on. He was
Yeah.
great.
Emmy, right? Emmy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Really,
He he is
very very
really
young, and
very
he
talented.
is able to, and he's already got it. Like he's so ahead of the game, and I'm really impressed
Yes,
with that.
absolutely.
I'm like, I wish at 16 I had that, that there. It took me a long time to figure out. I was like, oh, okay, this is how you do it.
when when I conversed with Emmy for the first time, I actually thought that what the fuck was I doing when I was 16? It's the
I know.
exact same thing I was thinking.
So yeah. So where can people reach you?
They can always reach to me on my email. My email is asksillyreader@gmail.com, and they can always DM me on Instagram or either on Twitter. My Twitter ID is also @sillyreader. So either they can DM me on Twitter, Instagram, or they can mail me. I reply to all the emails that I get. So the better chances to get a reply from me is to email me.
Oh, cool. All right. So email, and you could find you on Instagram as well as on YouTube. And I want to say
On
thank you.
Twitter, on Twitter, on Twitter.
And on Twitter. Wow. All right. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate this.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really, really a fun conversation.
Yes. Yes, it was. All right. Thank you. Okay, that about does it. I want to thank at Silly.Reader, Arjun, for coming on and talking and being so gracious with his time. Next week, I will have another interview for you, and I will see you next time on the DMF.